Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Vincentians that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
Have you registered for your COVID-19 digital vaccination certificate yet? Vincentians who received their COVID-19 vaccine in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are encouraged to apply for their vaccine certificate. If you are planning on traveling or planning to attend upcoming fully vaccinated events, here are 2 steps you can follow. Step 1. Send an email to vaccinecertificate@gov.bc with the following documents. 1. Your COVID-19 vaccination card. 2. Photo identification card. 3. Passport size photo. This is optional. Step 2. Be patient and allow for a maximum of 72 hours for the information to be forwarded to your email. Don't forget to check your spam or junk mail. For more information, call 784-451-2183 or the COVID-19 hotline 784-534-4325. Your health, a shared responsibility.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Profiles. On this edition of Profiles, I have no stranger to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, no stranger to every one of us, Major the Honorable Clair Leacock. He's my special guest, and you'll meet him when we come back from the break.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Vincentians that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
Over the years, vaccines have protected us from serious diseases like whooping cough, chickenpox, polio, measles, and others. Vaccines help your immune system do its job better and faster, and that protects you from serious diseases. Like a police officer, your immune system is always on patrol in your body looking for invading germs. When it comes across a germ, it begins releasing antibodies to fight the germ. These antibodies work to attack, weaken, and destroy the germ. The COVID-19 vaccine is no different. It will work to help your immune system fight COVID-19 effectively. You are important to your family and friends. Vaccines bring us closer. Choose to get vaccinated.
Welcome back. I'm sitting here with Major the Honorable Clair Leacock. He's my guest on this edition of Profiles. Major, it's a pleasure having you here. I know we're going to be challenged in the next hour or so trying to map or trace your journey, but you've had an illustrious life. I think I'm at liberty to say that. And let's see if we can do it any justice. Welcome.
Well, Tony, it's both pleasure and privilege for me, and condensing 70 years into 1 hour is doable. And I would enjoy the next hour program sitting with you.
Well, let's jump straight into it. Your childhood. Who were the persons that you remember most, the ones who influenced you the most, the ones who perhaps are mainly responsible for who Clair Leacock is today? Tell me who they are and why you think that they are key people.
Well, I'll answer that and work it backwards, Tony. First of all, I consider myself to be educated and rounded. I have a good balance of value and self. I also have a sense of purpose that is people-centered, people-oriented. I am driven by service to humanity, and I think those characteristics properly captures my working class parents, George and Elsa Leacock. My education drive, I credit to him, and much of the business as well. Although in the latter portion, other factors came into play. But my mother was fundamentally the disciplinarian, no nonsense, seldom smiled, but had a great heart. And I think I embody those characteristics.
Tell me, what about your father? What were the interventions he made when a young Major was going astray? What are the things he insisted on? How did he keep you grounded? And I pick him out because I think you singled him out as the one of your two parents who may have been more responsible for the education you have today, the discipline you have today, although that must be, of course, credited to your mother as well.
Yeah.
But tell me about those things that he did.
Well, my dad was a typical working class individual, first of all. But for his time, well or sufficiently educated. Much of it has been self-education. My dad knew virtually every capital in the world, every president, prime minister, leader, all business. He was consumed by the newspapers. The news was a must listen to. He was a go-getter, get up and get. And he went through his phases, had his highs and his low. So he didn't do too badly in early business life. And I think that the fact that we were born in one of the three ghettos in the city at the time, I talk about coming from upstreet, the Long Wall area there where Sheraton is now. The other two slums would have been Paulette, that we now call Paul's Avenue, and Bottom Town, we now call Rose Place. Yes. And to have the wisdom to move us out of that environment in pretty quick time and take us into middle-class setting, Lover's Lane as it was originally called, more popularly known as New Montrose. populated by and large by the civil servants, the professionals of the day, business entrepreneurs, so that we had a mix of good working class experience and the balance of middle class living. And then he insisted always that education was the way out. So I ground all that on the fact that if you consider that at age 4, I went to a private school.
And the private school being?
Miss Deshawn School in Bottomtown.
Okay, so this is kindergarten stuff.
What we will refer to as kindergarten.
Right.
Today, I don't think the word was invented then. And so I met people like Rene Batiste, who I consider to be respected friends up to today, although we're on different sides of the fence. And the gentleman who was known for his arts and craft, Raymond Bandy Payne, who had come back from Aruba. Those two individuals stand out to me, and he would say that I was his best friend. Tells you that he thought he wanted something from me and out of me. In much later life, he would put it over differently. He would say, you are my bank account.
I see.
You're my bank account.
So was that typical of parents, especially with large families? You were firstborn, I take it.
I'm firstborn.
Right, and
yeah.
firstborn son as well. So
Yeah.
we're putting all this into context.
Yes, that matters. Yeah.
Yeah, was it typical for parents to look at children, although with love and caring and nurturing, but also hope for their future?
Well, I would say that most working class people had those characteristics with them, but you have to sustain it over a period of time. So it's one thing to say that I went to Miss Deshawn School, which is a private school, but then he followed that up and sent me into prep school, which was middle class by and large. It was paid. It wasn't free, of course. He didn't send me to the Anglican school, as it would have been logical, as where my elder sister went, or to Richmond Hill, or to the Methodist. The churches controlled the schools in those days, or the Catholic. Yes. He went to a private school. And I think those things began to shape and or mold me, And as I said, he also took us into a middle-class living area. And it all means that whatever it was going to cost him, he wanted his children to be something.
So expectations were high.
Were very high
of you from an early stage. Did you meet up to the expectations?
Well, I think so.
And were you feeling pressured throughout that whole period?
No, because and I had a mix, and I wasn't pressured. But I say this: by the time I got into grammar school, I would have been the first of that generation to go to a secondary school, and that's an achievement in itself. My dad used to have a slang from then and thereafter. My boy name in the papers,
right.
So to get the weekly newspaper and see your son is among the counted. And at that time, to be one of 48 to get into the grammar school, I suspect he had bragging rights and is no swell, and therefore I had to deliver. I only got a free education when I went to the University of the West Indies, by which time I got a scholarship from Commonwealth Fund for Technical Cooperation.
So your father paid for
all the way through
until you got that scholarship.
And little things you remember, Tony. For example, I had a bicycle right into school. Grammar school boys didn't have bike. They walk or they got there by public transportation with rabbit skin covered in neon green and so on and so forth.
You're almost like an elite.
Yeah, it spoiled me, And when my father was going to outfit me, I mean, you heard him before you saw him. Maybe that's where I got some of my mouth from, And I remember him going into batter, was one of the shoe plates of the day. I don't want any compressed cardboard, and you'll say the same thing for belt if you're going in by lanes. He was going to outfit me as good as any permanent secretary's child, any doctor child, any lawyer's child, any senior business post in town.
Yes.
You will not feel different. And very often I had more money in my pocket than many of those people.
Well, that's very interesting, because clearly your father.
And I would add to that, even while in grammar school, even though I had all these market days, we will talk to them. I remember working for us as a cash boy at what it was, Goddard's or one of those places it was at the time, in which you took the goods from the sales point up to the cash point. That's what they refer to as cash boys.
Yes.
And then they got graduated up where he became a rapper. Me and the guy, a young man Mulder, he rapped the glassware and so forth from him. Then the business splits are much different then. You know, means that tells you the journey, you know.
And you mentioned the market days. I want to hear about those.
Oh, well, market days was a must thing for father and mother. Because he had a market shop. I think it was number 2 market shop, which was government shops rented out to enterprising persons. And the number 1 market shop was a gentleman named Mr. Shoy. And Shoy, I think, might have been a politician of some sort for the day. I don't quote me, but he could have been on one of the tongue boards or one of those city councils kind of posts.
I'm not familiar with
Yes, but those people had cars and so forth. And about 5 places down, you had Hubert Hines, number 6 market shop. I remember those well. And all those market shop owners had a little something, you know. So to me, you're in the business of retailing and wholesaling goods, which is something to speak about. And across the road from him, my mother sold hand-spun ice cream from those those tubs that we had in those days. And I'll say something about that too. She would volunteer ice cream for a grammar school fair, prep school fair. Now, you're talking about a tub of ice cream, you get over 30 cones from a tub. So if you do that 3 or 4 times, you're talking about she contributing $12, $15 to a fair. That's a lot of money. Significant. And my father would contribute all of the ice to cold the drinks and to do all the things or to put into the juices that had to be sold and so forth. So small but voluntary and big heart. Just as my father gave all the ice to cricket for the cricket people of the time, Fraser Nicholas cricket, they was called. So the cricketers on Wednesdays was played. They got the drinks from him.
So your parents were enterprising. And
they were enterprising.
Do you think that
I want to add one more enterprising thing.
Add one more.
Tony. Coconut water, for example, as you know, much of that came to town by boats, especially from the leeward side. Those rowboats came up on the wharf, and he took the ice and the coconut water, and he stored them in the Nobugo's ice house. So you know, had not just the coconut water, he had cold coconut water, and some people got coconut water with the ice being formed inside of it.
That was revolutionary.
Because my father bought ice wholesale. I think a block ice was $1.20. I remember these things. You can't forget these things. You know, this is the formation, and retail them in half blocks and quarter blocks. But he also provided ice to all of the government departments. All of the government departments, 6 cent size, 12 cent size, whatever, to put in the cooler buckets because we didn't have fridge. And those sort of things, even in the government system at the time. And some of us delivered ice to some of those places. I had one time with this very bike I spoke to you about. Before I went into grammar school in the mornings, I would deliver ice to Arian Paul's, that Miss Williams in Middle Street, Banana Association.
How did you carry the ice? You were right in?
No, you had a carrier. The bike had a carrier.
At the back.
The bike had a carrier. They made 1 or 2 trips. But it meant that I made 36 cents a day.
All of that was your money?
It was my money.
That was yours?
Yes, my effort was my money, but it was his bike. Because I did lose the bike in the end. And when he got a little precocious, he took one the bike and gave it to my brother Leroy. And when Leroy got out, I think God got the bike. so the bike stayed with you as long as the behavior was in line. And it also because I had loaned it out without his permission to somebody else to ride the bike, you know.
Well, it seems as if, you know, we've certainly captured where that entrepreneurial spirit came from. Because you later, and we'll talk about that, subsequently went on to be, in your own right, an entrepreneur. But we're at the end of our first segment. I want to pull from you some pieces of music as we go through this interview. And I think it'll help people to understand who Sinclair Major, the Honorable Sinclair Leacock is. Let me hear your first piece of music. Tell me why you've chosen it and what's the significance.
Well, the first piece of music I chose will come off of the same story that we're carrying. And I chose, I used to call it, well, the artist is not Hepburn. And it's a song, it's a Christmas song, Tell Santa Claus. To bring a Constantine and all the things for me. Why I remember that song? My father was not an at-home man. But Christmas time and season, he would be an at-home man. And he and my mother always had the little tiffs. And she would be sitting peacefully in the chair, relaxing in the spirit of the season. And he would provokingly come with his tongue hanging out of his head. He can't dance. And starting to pull mommy out of the chair to come and dance with him. Elsa, come, now dance, now dance. Now that's no crazy. And a lot of confusion in the house. sometimes you couldn't put Humpty Dumpty together again, you know. But that would happen Christmas after Christmas religiously. So even now when I hear that song,
It reminds you of that.
it reminds me of Christmas, which was very festive, but hard work in our home, and my father's provocation of my mother. And then he would leave the house and go and find his peace.
Well, Major, let's go to the break and let's listen to the song.
Yes.
Yes, one Christmas Eve, casually I was walking down the street. One Christmas Eve, casually I was walking down the street. I was attracted by the voice of a little boy as he held his mother's hands, telling her his plans. What do you think the conversation could be? He said, listen, Mama, I want you to tell Santa Claus to bring a trumpet and a concertina for me. I am lonely, cause there's no children nearby me. Ma, you don't know how happy your son will be.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Vincentions that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
Have you registered for your COVID-19 digital vaccination certificate yet? Vincentians who received their COVID-19 vaccine in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are encouraged to apply for their vaccine certificate. If you are planning on traveling or planning to attend upcoming fully vaccinated events, here are 2 steps you can follow. Step 1. Send an email to vaccinecertificate@gov.bc with the following documents. 1. Your COVID-19 vaccination card. 2. Photo identification card. 3. Passport size photo. This is optional. Step 2. Be patient and allow for a maximum of 72 hours for the information to be forwarded to your email. Don't forget to check your spam or junk mail. For more information, call 784-451-2183 or the COVID-19 hotline 784-534-4325. Your health, a shared responsibility.
She said to me, Mr. Knopp, you can do the best you can. I gave her money and asked her, miss, where you live. That night at 12 o'clock, I brought a lovely box. The next day, she was so merry and gay. When she heard, listen, Mama, I want you to thank Santa Claus for the concertina and the trumpet he brought for me. I'm so happy, I have no time to take some tea. Oh, what a nice Godfather he is to me.
You looking at profiles, my guest on this edition is Major the Honorable Clair Leacock. Major, quite an interesting song because it reminds me as well. I mean, I'm probably a decade or so your junior, but it also reminds me of the early Christmas days. You know, that was quite a hit. Academically, you've achieved. I think there's no doubt about that. I think you pride yourself as quite an academic. What I remember of you, and you're going to tell my audience a bit more. I remember you as a Spanish teacher at the boys' grammar school. You taught me Spanish.
Yeah.
I remember you also being very involved in the cadets. You were my commandant. And I remember you being a voice in the community when academic things were being discussed, when we were in that conscious area of learning about who we were and, you know, the social issues. You certainly weren't silent. What passage led you to that? Tell me about your secondary and university.
I'm not going to represent myself to be above the average performance of schoolboys of the day, but I certainly worked and tried my best. And I got, well, in those days, you didn't get 15, 16, and 18 subjects. I don't even believe it was humanly possible to write those number of subjects.
No. You got 6 and you felt good.
Yeah, the way the whole system was configured. So
Yeah.
I ended up with my fair portion of O levels in the history and economics and being my favorite subjects of the day. I went on to work at customs and was transferred back to the grammar school to take charge both of the cadets and to teach Spanish.
Okay.
Now, that's a story in itself, because I got caned in grammar school by Morgan for a very low percentage pass in Spanish. But that served its purpose, because after that I didn't get a second cane, and he just learned your vocabulary and did all you had to do to get up to speed. And eventually I got off a little bit lately to the University of West Indies. I wanted to do law, but the faculty was very competitive at the time. Then I wanted to do economics, and that too was filled out. And I was asked to try this field of management studies. Some people call it BCom, a Bachelor's of Commerce. To sweeten the story, I remember trying for that scholarship before and competing with people like Basil Bonket, not in the best of health, and Sam Goodluck of Vinshaw, who were my seniors. And I understandably did not succeed against them. I think Sam went off to Canada and completed that and came back. But I haven't regretted the management studies that I went into. And I spent a lot of time in university, I must tell you that. Years later, I went back and I did an MBA in business administration and with specialty in finance and human resource development. And then I, almost without a rest, went on to Bradford by a visitation route to do my doctorate in business. And I left it, strangely enough, to go back into politics because I was summoned. And in the process, because I was 6 months from completing it, they offered me a Master's of Science degree in Management Research, which would be the equivalent to if somebody was doing the PhD route. They would have probably completed the MPhil. But I was going the DBA route, with specialization in leadership. Bourne's theory of transformational leadership, that was my specialty. But as you said, I was at the grammar school, and I speak about my academic pursuit. But I think I had a good formal education before the university academic education.
So you cherish those moments in grammar school, both for your fond memories and the friendships that you created, but for the grounding it gave you for that higher level of education.
It will be the cadet force. I can't jump.
That's what you're going to.
That's what I was going to pull out. Yes, I joined the cadet force in '66, and every young man in Sylvester, most young people who got exposed an opportunity, figured out that this is something they wanted to be serious. The closer they came to being in the army or doing a military life, and it had a high standard to get in there. It didn't get in there easily at all. You had to perform and have some gumption to be able to become a cadet. And I was a member of the founding member of the cadet band, the Corps of Drums, as they call it then, as a bugler, something that I know you did later on, and you yourself became an outstanding bugler
Well,
in the cadet force. Some years.
I have to go back into my memory banks.
Yes,
to
but I know
out.
I know that for a fact. But I rose to the rank of commandant of the cadet force, which was some achievement by itself, because when you look at the who's who and the history of those organizations, you didn't get to the top of those places easily either.
No.
And I got there largely because of good opportunities. There was something else called the Canada Caribbean Exchange Program, in which the Canadian government and armed forces provided an aircraft to bring their cadets up in Canada all the way down south to Guyana.
Yes.
So coming through Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago as staging points. And it dropped and picked up cadets on the way down and then reversed itself on the way up. So many of us had an opportunity now to be exposed to the regional defense force of the time. So I had the privilege of being trained by the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force in Trinidad.
Defense Force, I guess.
Right, Barbados Defense Force in Barbados, Guyana Defense Force in Guyana, Jamaica Defense Force in Jamaica.
Right.
And I made it all the way up to the Canadian Armed Forces, where I trained at 4th Battalion, the Royal Canadian Regiment at Wolseley Barracks, and became a qualified Army officer. So that put me in an extremely good position in military service. So that was my first formal and sustained post-secondary education experience.
And you think that military discipline?
Yes.
And when people hear about military discipline, I think they see it in a very narrow way. They
Too
see
narrow.
it as
Too narrow.
getting up early, shining your boots, and taking commands. But that's very narrow, as
Yes,
I
that's
say.
very narrow.
But that military discipline, though, the broader sense of it, you think that prepared you for
life?
Period.
Yeah. Even now, if I'm challenged, I go back to fundamentals. And my fundamentals with how I survived at the days when I was a cadet. It required discipline in terms of time and space and quality. You still had to showcase the features of voluntarism, of service before self. And if you're going to complete a task, one event at a time, and do it to the best of your ability. And always recognize that you have to surrender to somebody bigger and more senior than yourself. I'm not going to say greater than you, but more senior than yourself. There's always an authority that beyond yourself,
right?
That you should respect. I think that guides me in the way I relate to a lot of things I do in life.
But yet, even though there's always an authority beyond you, still in your own right, you were quite an outstanding leader. You came to the top of the cadet force. This is how we get.
And the scout movement as well.
Right.
I think in 1968, I was the most outstanding scout in the grammar school. And the most outstanding cadet, the GS Bundy Award and the Major Cozy Award, won them at the same time. Those days, the grammar school had its own speech day. I think in the hallway, I think we used to have those kinds of things.
I think I remember that. Yes.
I think that's how it used to be. So I think
before going to the Russell Cinema.
Yes, I think leadership was recognized as me, and I did well, rising through the ranks.
So as a leader in the military, and I believe you were, I'm sure you must have been a housemaster in the grammar school. I can't see you going through grammar school teaching and not becoming a housemaster, were you?
Yeah, well, my school career, I was a good footballer, starting from prep school. So I think I almost made the form team, the host team in grammar school even before I got there, because your reputation preceded you.
Yes.
But when I went to grammar school, I was the assistant deputy commandant. Well, I think they called me adjutant to Lennox John, who was the commandant at the time. I eventually replaced him.
Right.
So that means when I was deputy, I got $10 increment on my salary, by the way. When I became the commandant, I got $20.
Ah, interesting.
I was deputy games master to Frankie George,
right.
An outstanding economist. Excuse me, and when I replaced him as housemaster, I got $20. So you imagine when you had those kind of money to salary at the time.
Yeah.
But I was in fact a housemaster for Miller House, which house I belonged to when I was in school, and I became games master, which meant that I organized sports in grammar school. In the days when sports was sports, and I did speak, when Wednesdays were the half day in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and people ring the grammar school to see those outstanding athletes of the time, and the comments comes to my mind and others. So you have to remember that grammar school athletes and footballers and cricketers virtually comprise sometimes 75% of the national teams. And in fact, many of them went on to form their own sports club. I think Saints would have been, Mike Finney and others like that. But this was a hangover from their grammar school days, which was,
And as we're talking about leadership, let's go into some other spheres as well. As Sinclair, the leader, football, national football. I think you made quite an indelible mark on that sport.
Yeah, well, again, and I pride myself, I've always walked my way up because I had the benefit of serving on the Football Association, as it was at the time, led by Scobie Taylor. After politics, football probably has the most politics in St. Vincent and Grenadines.
Maybe that's why you like them both, eh?
Maybe it's a real breeding ground for confusion and deception and so on and so forth. But I eventually replaced Scobie Taylor, God bless his soul, who did tremendously well for St. Vincent and Grenadines, and continued where he succeeded in '79, where we came second in CFU. I did the same thing when we went in '81 to Puerto Rico, by which time I was president and manager of the team. And then much later, I came back for a second stint as president of the Football Federation, in which I took our football team to number 73 in the world. But I particularly like this period when I had the privilege to work with good and outstanding footballers and leaders among themselves, that we branded the team Vinci Heat,
right,
which is the name of the team it still carries today. Because I, as a businessman, believe in brand equity and brand management. Yes. And I think that's one of the things
I remember
value.
During that same Vinci Heat era as well, you mentioned Basil Banqueto. He was also involved in soccer around the same time you were. And I remember that slogan, as it were, football, the game of the people. Right? That resonates because I think that came out of the same branding exercise.
Well, Basil was clearly a dynamo and very outstanding. He served on executive that I served, and then I left. He also took over and carried on in football. And I remember that important slogan: "Soccer, the game of the people." Yes. And I think there was another expression: "It's not the size of the country that counts, but the people." Something like that. Some nice. These things make sense. Yeah. Basically, saying that when you go onto the field of play, 11 fewer are equal to 11 anywhere else in the world. And the Vinci Heat brand was to mean that we had the ability tapping into the diaspora of putting 11 representative people on the field of play that can match 11 representatives of any part of the world. So when we got to 73, which I say is the position that Russia had when it's hosting the World Cup, people don't understand what that means because there are 54 countries in UEFA. And if after those 54 in the best of the best leagues in the world, you're in the next 19. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's quite an achievement.
Phenomenal.
We're running to the end of our second segment, and I want to get some more music from the major. Tell me your second piece, and again, tell me what it is and tell me why.
Well, here now I'll go to the spiritual side because that's that side of me too. I go to one of the songs that I don't ever go to a Baptist funeral and don't sing. How great thou art.
How great thou art.
Yes, and I'd sing the first 2 or 3 lines and so forth, and the Baptist will take over. So I don't have to do the whole song. But the song that always touches and reaches me. But that also is a remind of my own mortality and sense of humanity. And that again it goes back to there's always something great in itself. And frankly speaking, God has really been good to me. Sometimes I say it a little more raucously. He's something else, because for all of my imperfections and failures and shortcomings, he's always been there at my side and guided and directed me. So I have a lot to be thankful for God's grace and for his mercies.
Well, with that, let's go to the second break with How Great Thou Art.
Oh Lord, my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the works thy hands have made, I see the stars and I hear the rolling thunder, the power throughout the universe. colors display. Then sings my soul, my Savior, God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Vincentions that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
Over the years, vaccines have protected us from serious diseases like whooping cough, chickenpox, polio, measles, and others. Vaccines help your immune system do its job better and faster, and that protects you from serious diseases. Like a police officer, your immune system is always on patrol in your body looking for invading germs. When it comes across a germ, it begins releasing antibodies to fight the germ. These antibodies work to attack, weaken, and destroy the germ. The COVID-19 vaccine is no different. It will work to help your immune system fight COVID-19 effectively. You are important to your family and friends. Vaccines bring us closer. Choose to get vaccinated.
This is Profiles, and my guest is Major the Honorable Clair Leacock. I'm Tony Regisford. Major,
Hey.
You're a businessman. We're going to get to the politician side of you in the last segment. But I think business, and as you mentioned, your parents, your father, your mother, both self-employed, certainly not working for anybody but themselves, and showing you at that early age what enterprise is all about. Tell me about your own journey into the entrepreneurial sphere.
Yeah, well, it wasn't surprising. It's almost natural that having gone and studied business at the University of the West Indies, When I came out, I want to practice that. And even though I came back as a graduate teacher, I formed my own company, a management consultancy company called Vinmo.
Okay.
Vincent Marketing Operations Research Enterprise. I still remember what the
acronym,
acronym stands for, you know. And those businesses coincided with what I refer to my turbulent 30s.
Why turbulent?
Getting up and forming a business is tough going. You face all of the adversities that you can come up against. There are the issues of capital formation. There are the issues of sociological nature, which existed at the time. Many people not really keen in seeing young people get by.
Well, I want to pause you there because you may be sugarcoating it a little bit.
Yeah.
Young Black people, St. Clair.
I wanted to say that, Tony, but
yes, because I know. I saw the formation.
Yes, I didn't want to offend anyone, but young Black people.
Yes.
You know, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you, I remember that I had a gentleman working with me at one time that was fair in complexion. And somebody came to the office, my office, and they began to address him as the manager.
Right.
Because clearly I couldn't be the manager of the enterprise. It had to be him. And after that, I had to put my certificates on the wall. So they knew
who was who.
Who was who, you know. Unfortunately, but it's true. So you had those situations, and I had to take a long road to get to where I wanted, you know. Mortgage my family silver, the house my father had given to me. Sometimes get enough fixed deposits that they could provide the security, which is like lending yourself money to do business, and then all the trial and failures in business. And
so did you have this feeling as if the system was rigged against you in your struggles to, as you say, raise capital, to get business, to convince people that your service was as good as, you know?
It's more than rigged, Tony. It is some features of becoming an enterprise in our society. I don't know if you want to say it's cultural or psychological, and some of it still exists today, especially in the Black community.
Yes.
The Indians, for example, people criticize them. They come to each other's assistance far easier. The Syrians and the Lebanese do the same thing. It's not by chance that the Portuguese communities, for example, have the success that they do in terms of how they're able to keep business continue on through the children and go on for generations. If you look around town now, look at Middle Street. This might annoy some people, but all of Middle Street could have been a modern day mall owned by
Black businesses.
By Black businesses. Not that we don't welcome the people that we have here, but all are separated one business from another. There's a 6-inch wall and sometimes a little alleyway. But if they knock them down, join together, you could have still had your specialization in hats, and me in leather, and you in the shows, and you in haberdashery, and so on and so forth. But we could have owned Middle Street as one big long mall. Today we have lost it all because we lost it individually.
But it's also true to say, I think, and I don't want to derail this interview, which is about Clair Leacock, to talk about some social features and some economic features of the society as we know it. But isn't it also true to say, in your generation, a lot of emphasis was put on academics? It still is now, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. But if you look at Black families versus Portuguese, Indians, and the other races, the Blacks seem more hell-bent on pushing their children the academic route, even if the child could have inherited a business early on.
But that is true. I mean, I use the language of wearing the umbilical cord around the neck. If you didn't wear a tie, you wasn't anybody, and so you wanted to be a lawyer. And we are for a long time meeting a lawyer class, and to some extent to be a doctor. And that's why the island's culture was so skewed as well. If you want Ireland's culture, he became a doctor and a lawyer. And then that goes over even into government of dominating parliamentary systems and so forth, you know.
So you're trained more to be a bureaucrat than to be a business person? Huh?
Yeah, man, we are forced to risk taking because if you are a business person, it is far easier to name and shame you unto your failure. When you've tried one business enterprise and it don't succeed, and you try a second, it don't succeed, how quickly your name goes into the paper and they repossess you and people hear your shit. But when a person comes from abroad and open a business, they're virgin. Nobody knows how many times they've failed in whatever the capitals or citadels of the world. And are here now for the 10th, 12th, or 15th time opportunity. And we embrace them and push them on, you know. And so you fought through all of those things, you know. I remember when I became the distributor for Heineken, for example, and for Xerox.
Right.
Those were too good for me. And the people who did went out to do it to see that I didn't succeed. Apart from the fact that I probably just didn't have enough money to survive in those businesses as well. I mean, I think I share with you privately off air the fact that at one time my banker said, yes, Sinclair, a banker's no is good as his yes. You see, all those machines you have, you don't have enough money to stay in that industry. Get out of it and get rid of them.
Right.
And I dumped $250,000 worth of photocopy machine, typewriters, printers, you name them, and cried. But that $250,000 I dumped probably saved me $5 million worth of
down the
road that I probably couldn't sustain in the industry. Just changing so fast. You have to be into training and development of the people. You have to have inventory. You have to have as much on the sea. You have to have as much on the showcase. You have to have most in the repair yard and so forth. It's an expensive industry.
But while you're doing your business enterprise, you're also straddling a professional career as well. I think during that period, you may have been the HR manager at Vinlec at one point. I don't know what your businesses were well established then. You were still in the soccer arena and the start of your politics. So, do you think you distracted yourself, maybe?
Well, you see, I referred a while ago to the turbulent 30s when I was investing. And I am glad now I made those investments, you know, because I went on to Vinlec when I was at age 40, 41 or thereabout. And I consider my 40s to be the quiet 40s or my consolidating 40s, because it's far easier and more enjoyable receiving our people's money at the end of the month in a guaranteed pocket than feeding yourself for what you work for, you know.
Salary, yeah.
And so when in a privileged organization like Vinlec, we're on the 22nd of the month, your money's already in the bank. That's good. You know, they've already deducted your money for your light bill. You don't have to deal with that.
Right.
You have your medical paid for, your rent paid for, your gas in the vehicle, and provide your transportation. It's the good life. you know what I mean? So I consolidated there. But I must also say, Vinlec is also a university from which you never graduate. I coined that expression. What I mean, Tony, Vinlec spends a lot of money, as you would know, like your cable wireless life, on training and development. Yes. So this is not the academic necessarily. Some of that is in there, but it's the hands-on practitioners' experience. And I, over 10 years in Vinlec, I said I did management as a first degree. At university. But at Vinlec, I was able to study the head, eye, ear, nose, chin, chest, elbow, fingers, knee, toes in management. So I can talk to you about productivity management. I can talk to you about personal management, stress management, you know, industrial relations. Any feature of management, I would have studied it at one place and or the other. Short course, long courses. So I'm among those Vincents who have studied on all three campuses, Caveville, St. Augustine, and Mona, and beyond. And then all of the other agencies. Remember in that same period too, I became president of the Employers Federation, which is Vinlec's voice representing business, but from the labor component.
But you also battled the Chamber of Commerce.
In the 30s, in business, I was vice president of the Chamber of Commerce under Reggie De Silva and others.
In the 30s,
And those days, you're rubbing shoulders with greats. You know, the quick print people, the Silvers and the and others, and well, in the federation there will be people like Keyser,
Right.
and then you had Antrobus,
Yes.
and then you had the Guns,
Yes.
Fitz Richardson. So very much you were learning, and you're gaining experience.
In all of this, and I want to, take a little corner, and take my viewers around the corner with you. Your social life, man. I mean, you can't have all been about academics and business and military.
Yeah.
Where's these testosterone levels?
They were always high. They were always high. They were always high. I was among a fortunate group of young men in grammar school. People might have fancied us to be the girls' boys, the life of the party sort of thing, The guys who made parties come alive. Those days we refer to them as Dutch party. You have to bring along a bottle or some contribution to the party the night. It would be the more privileged of the community then who would be hosting those parties. And I also like to say this sometimes. The parents will come and turn on the lights to see how
crashing.
How the place gets so crowded. And if you're not on the invitation list, you got to make your way outside. But the girls will come and secure you, like because they get when things cool down.
Right. Because maybe you were the life of the party.
You were the life of the and so I had good relationships.
Did you marry early?
Well, at age 25. Margaret Elisha from Cedars, just outside of your home village of Bible. And we have
so you walked down the aisle at a very early age.
Now you look back on it as an old age. My first son, Samora, is he's a major now in the Marines. And it's because I took an attitude to him, this is important, just as my father took to me.
Right.
That education. So he went to Virginia Military Institute. That was his college. He did economics. He has to be qualified as a military officer. Went on off to Britain to join the Royal Marines because he didn't have U.S. citizenship, so he couldn't join the U.S. Army. And came back with a few years on, back to the Marines, the United States of America. And he's now the major, perhaps, if he's there long enough, may become a colonel, something he couldn't dream of. That's the real McCoy. Ironically, he's in Japan with his family on a 3-year posting. I went to Japan in 1988. And to think that sometime after, my son will come back to be in the same Japan that I did a study tour of is phenomenal. And my other son, there's one in Florida. He's a handyman. He does everything. A little unruly at times. Gave me a lot of trouble. My daughter did a first degree in I don't remember what it was in, but I couldn't get her to the law that I wanted her to do. But her master's in business. And I have a son who is in Taiwan now, who is also doing engineering.
So there you are, and
8 grandchildren.
Well,
8 grandchildren.
What
Don't
more
don't
can
leave
you
them
accomplish?
Don't leave them.
If you got 8 grandchildren, that's quite an accomplishment.
Only 2 boys, but the girls are sweet.
We're at the end of our 3rd segment,
Yes.
and I want that 3rd piece of music from you. Again, you're gonna tell me what it is and tell me why.
Yeah, the 3rd piece of music I had used, because we haven't got to politics yet as such, will be Barris, Come Down Father.
Barris
Hammond, Come Down Father.
And what about Come Down Father?
Well, it's not far off from the How Great Thou Art. Again, it's my feeling that you always have to appeal to some force.
So this is your spiritual side.
My spiritual side of me. And, it's telling us that there are many challenges down here. And it's more than you can handle by yourself. So you ask for his guidance to assist you through all of these things you must dissect and make sense of. And it's also on my political t-shirts, and it's one of my real great meditations.
Come Down Father is a mantra of St. Clair Leacock.
Come Down Father.
And we shall hear it as we go out to the break on our 3rd segment.
Watching the time, how the people are moving and murmuring to myself, wish I ever had to be the way I see this world running. Shouldn't have to be, cause now every man's cup is filled with hate and overflowing. Father, I know things are going wrong, yeah. It's wickeder than before. We really checks that we could have run things, but it not look so anymore, no. Father, come down. Beg you come down, Father, come down. Oh, yeah, beg you come down, Father, come down, baby, come down, Father, beg you come down.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Vincentions that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
Have you registered for your COVID-19 digital vaccination certificate yet? Vincentians who received their COVID-19 vaccine in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are encouraged to apply for their vaccine certificate. If you are planning on traveling or planning to attend upcoming fully vaccinated events, here are 2 steps you can follow. Step 1. Send an email to vaccinecertificate@gov.bc with the following documents. 1. Your COVID-19 vaccination card. 2. Photo identification card. 3. Passport size photo. This is optional. Step 2. Be patient and allow for a maximum of 72 hours for the information to be forwarded to your email. Don't forget to check your spam or junk mail. For more information, call 784-451-2183 or the COVID-19 hotline 784-534-4325. Your health, a shared responsibility.
In my heart, I know that you won't let your chosen people suffer. I know you'll never let us down. No, no. Many times I could have picked up a gun, I could have go out the street and play big gun. That's no fun, no. Sure ain't no fun, oh no. 'Cause I think what would happen if the other man thinks the same? Then bullets fall like rain. It's no fun, no. No, it's no fun. Oh, I see greed and I see selfishness. Every man is for himself. Only you can talk to them, Father, 'cause they listen to no one else, no. Come down, Father, come down. I beg you, come down, Father, come down, Lord.
This is Profiles, and we're into our final segment with Major the Honorable Clair Leacock, who is my guest on this edition. Major, before we get into the current part of your what you're known for now, politics.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me a bit about, because I know you as somebody who was a mass man.
Very much so. Yeah.
You're big into carnival.
Yeah. I actually won Individual of the Year one in Carnival. I think it was I played Signs of the Zodiac on that occasion, and I beat Gladstone George, who had won the King of the Bands. But I didn't enter the King of the Bands competition. I entered the individual, and on Carnival Tuesday, the individual beat the costume over the King of the Bands. But I played in when I was in grammar school. I didn't go the Bridge Boys route, as most grammar school boys would have gone. I went up Sign Hill and joined with Roy Ralph, as he was then. Later, he became the Dragons. Roy Ralph, of course, is the mentor as well for people like Blondie Board, who is still now very popular in Carnival. And he had some very interesting bands that he brought. And in later life, I assisted him, even while playing, of being what they used to call the narrator. Those days, because you had these distinct sections, historical sections,
Yes.
and fancy sections, and people have to go on the stage and explain what is
what you're depicting.
What you're depicting, you know. And I had a long period of time with him. I remember Miss Norma Keys, who used to be a judge, was very happy one year when he played Hyrule Splendor of Nature, because Roy Ralph had looked around, taking all the natural things in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and make a costume off of them.
Right.
So like the Botanic Gardens was one of the portrayals. Yeah. Myself and a guy called Errol Nina played the banana tree, the banana plant. And we still call each other by that name to up to today, Banana Man, and the many other things you see around St. Vincent would be reflected in that band. But I'll tell you that even in my early days when I played Carnival, I had some interesting experience because I said my father was a businessman, and I had other brothers, my brother Leroy and Garnet. You couldn't get the whole day. So if you got the morning half to go to the park, you had to come in the shop to sell in the evening part.
So they could go.
They could go. So we exchanged role, and but a year in particular, I had not gone to him to say I want to play Carnival. But a fellow Heinz in Military was building the shoes that you have to wear to play Carnival, and I couldn't raise. I think it might have been $8 to pay for the shoes. I couldn't raise it, boy, and I had to swallow my pride and say, "Daddy, boy, I need this money to pay for the Carnival shoes." The result of that is that by Carnival Tuesday morning, the shoes still had wet paint on it, because so you have to keep away from people from painting up with the shoes jumping up and down, But it was fun, It was fun,
Well, let's move into politics. You are, of course, a known politician. You've been in electoral politics for quite a while. You've been in politics period for even longer. Mm-hmm. What is your political philosophy?
Well, if I speak to where I am today in politics, I am first and foremost a champion for democracy, which includes a respect for constitutionalism. I am pro-business. I have a strong belief in the role of the private sector, but that doesn't disregard that the state has a right to make certain interventions from time to time. But I do not believe the state should be overarching engine of the economy per se, although all small island states have peculiarities which drives it in that particular direction. Right. I believe strongly in social justice. And so while in the early years of my political life, in my forum days, as I already referred to them, with Kenneth John and Parnell Campbell, John Horn, Eustace, and Cohen Morris and company, I would be far left of center. Right. I think right after the Morris Bishop and confusion in Grenada, like so many people, I shifted significantly to the right.
So you moderate.
So I'm probably, my politics fundamentally of a liberation type. I may be slightly left of center, and sometimes I go to the right, But I'm a more balanced person. As I said, I'm applying my heart to wisdom now in my wisdom years.
And you dedicated most of your political career, certainly the electoral side of your political career, to the New Democratic Party.
Yeah.
As you sit now, do you think it was time well spent? Have you got moments that maybe you want to dismiss as, not so good moments?
I've certainly had my hard knocks in it, and looking back now, I don't know if I'll do it again. But there will come a time in history, Tony, when people would look at my contribution, because there's always greater than and better than itself. The Desirata speaks to that. Yes. But I was 6 months from completing my doctoral work at Bradford when Eustace asked me to come and serve as a senator in the parliament.
This is the Honorable
Andy Eustace, yes. The NDP had been decimated at the polls. We had already seen those weakening signs in 1998 when Parnell Campbell, that titan, rest in peace, lost his seat to Ken Boy, who subsequently lost his seat. And then Bones Bonady, another national titan in Labour and national politics, as it were, also lost his seat. And I was being asked now to do what Campbell couldn't do and to do what Bones Bonady couldn't do. And they had fallen below 40% at the polls representing the New Democratic Party. In my very first appearance, I got 49.4% of the votes, and I think the other guy got 49 and a little bit more than me. Because Satan didn't get 50% either.
Right.
So I was never defeated by a 50% margin. I will contend, and people say that is subjective, that I never lost a seat. In fact, factually, I know I never lost a seat. But those things that I spoke about before told you how well I was accepted. Much of it of my own, much of it my parents' contribution. But I spent 10 years in the parliament as a senator. In the year 2000, when we had the Grand Beach Accord and all this civil confusion and unrest and synchronicities, I served as the public relations officer in the Democratic Party. Right. So James had great appreciation for my leadership. In fact, he offered me the Western George seat in the 2005 election, and I declined. Yeah. One of the only times that, well, one of two important occasions that I've declined him, because late in life, he would come to hand me the political party again, right. And I declined to take leadership of the party. Now, I'm not saying that he could give you the party, but that's what he said.
He wanted you to be the leader.
He is going to make me leader, and he's going to put the investors in the party to put the muscle behind me, and that was already in place.
Right. So, and this to some, this is a revelation.
It is a revelation, but that happened. But I remained loyal to you and said that under the circumstance, I cannot accept the offer.
Yes. Well, the offer for him to push you.
Yeah.
As you rightly identified, he couldn't, in of his own right.
Yeah, but
coronate you.
Yeah, but he probably figured he could be in a move and shake and do that.
Yeah.
As fate will have it, a few years later, when I thought I might have been the heir apparent to Eustace, because most of St. Vincent thought that I would naturally replace Eustace as the leader of the party. I was blindsided, so I was not there campaigning or positioning myself for leadership.
Why do you think you were blindsided? Why? What? Looking back now, and I mean,
I was naive.
Yeah,
I was politically naive.
Yeah,
and I fell prey to that. And by the time, a very good man. Let me just say that I'm not ill speaking of Dr. Friday, and I'm also a very deserving person. Was made leader by the machinations of the party. For me to undo that would have been to undo the party's fortunes for itself. And once more, I therefore was called to look up, and there's something bigger and greater than yourself. And that is the party that they believe to. So I loaned Friday the same level of commitment, loyalty, and support that I had given to you, and that I had also given to Mitchell.
Many people would want to, if they were sitting here, and then doing the question, may want to sort of ask you, how could you do this without any sort of acrimony? Given the fact that you were undone by in your words, the machinations of the party, but yet you have moved on, you've healed, and you support whatever leadership structure that there is. How can you do this without being acrimonious?
Well, let me come to the acrimony after I give a historical context.
Yes.
Because I said Campbell lost to Boy in 1998. It's important. I think Boy got 2006 votes then, in 98, and beat Campbell by nearly 500 votes. In the last general elections, when I won, it meant that I had gained 1,065 votes more than Campbell got in 1998. The guy who ran against me, and I wouldn't mention his name, in 2020, got less votes than Sayers, who contested with me in 2005. In other words, the Unity Labour Party in central Kingston has only grown by 78 votes over Boy's total, and that is to the high of Beres Phillips, who got 2,068 or something like that. So my performance has been a phenomenal.
It's basically yours.
Well, it's not mine. All things in life are temporary.
Yes.
But basically, it shows the respect and appreciation people have had for my character my record of service. And so there was a period of acrimony, not against the person who held the office, but the process that led him to the office. And I think it has not all gone away, because I think Mr. Eustace and myself were never friends in the way that we were again.
Yeah. But you seem to be putting the blame, if we were to use that word, squarely on the shoulders of the leader at the time, who was passing on the baton.
Yes, because I owe this to myself.
Yeah.
Because at the time when we were changing hands in the party, it's that you and I am sitting here. I'm defending you, Tony.
Yeah.
And not knowing that you're faking your debt on me.
Okay, fair enough.
But the whole thing was set up. I don't want this to be the highlight of what.
No, it's not going to be the highlight of what's in the Leacock.
But it's the history of where we are now. I have on a daily basis, inside and outside of the party, hundreds of people who come to me. Myriads of callers that come to me and hold firm. And that is clearly also the case in my own constituency, that our party would be stronger.
Were you the leader?
If I was the leader. I know that there are many people, all of you.
Do you think?
But it will be disruptive for me to address those kind words of the supporters.
Why? And this is the last question
on
this
politics,
particular, well, not on politics, but on this particular part of the politics we're discussing. Why do you think, or where were these instructions coming from to inform
that decision,
Eustace, that you were not the right choice?
Well, if the truth be told, even though I was invited back from you see, it's the price you pay for success sometimes, to join the New Democratic Party as a senator in 2000. By the time it had got around in 2005 to select a candidate for Central Kingston, I was not the candidate of choice,
Why? Because it seems...
Because I remember him distinctly saying to me on one occasion, I have too much baggage.
Right. So this is...
I don't hear that anymore.
This is what I'm getting at. It seems to be a consistent theme with Mr. Eustace as the reason why you perhaps were not suited. To be a candidate, as you just mentioned, and to be the eventual leader.
Well, I know something because I heard some of the things. There was the color question, which he himself was a victim of, that came out. There were people, I heard the statements, the business people wouldn't trust me. I heard those disparagements made.
Right.
People figured that my social life, my simplicity didn't speak to that. Or sometimes people might say, oh, you're a woman. That's how we put it in direct language, But I've gone to the funeral of Sir James, whose child outside of marriage is present. I went to the funeral of the Governor General, who had a child outside of his marriage. It didn't affect the social stand in society. But it's just like when I was to become the commandant of cadets. They made me the commandant of the cadet force, but not the ADC to the Governor General. And both officers were always fused.
They were always tight, yes.
But at that time, it was felt that my family background was not of a sufficiency that I could be that close to the Governor General.
So you felt victimized
I've had those things.
Certain phases of your life.
Yeah, I've had those
something
things.
that has haunted you throughout.
Yeah, I've had that. Even when we were in the cadet band in the Black Power days, I remember when we were court-martialed, for purportedly leading a Black Power demonstration up the street, and the people shouting, Paul, 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 Paul. It was the late Alan Cotton who stood behind me. But pay attention to this. I replaced Kenneth John as the commandant of the cadet force. Scobie Taylor in football. In Employers Federation, the gentleman at Quick Print.
Well, he was
Chamber. I think and I got right up to vice presidency of the New Democratic Party, where I've been for 20 years. Which means I could have been a possible replacement at some stage for James Mitchell. You see the order that I was replacing? You begin to see the challenge. those quantum leaps in the minds of some people.
So leadership
At the
of
great-
the NDP
Yes.
is unlikely now at this stage. And I'm going to push this interview along and ask you about, what's up for the latter phase of your life? Where are you going?
Me?
How longer are you going to remain in the
I probably remain in politics. I try to keep myself fit and healthy and my brain's in one place. I think I'm good for another 5 years of political life. And that the best thing I can do for the Democratic Party today is give all the loyalty and support I can to Dr. Friday and ask those who believe and support me to transfer that support to him. It's too late in my life to be otherwise now. Because I'll tell you this, Tony, if I didn't say anything else on the program tonight. This is a Vincentian who's completely at peace with himself. That which I couldn't achieve or didn't achieve, it wasn't meant to be. Because I generally give my all to an effort to any enterprise that I'm involved in. And when you see that I couldn't move that stone, it has to be for some good reason. And I accept fate.
Major, we're at the end of this interesting chat. I hope we've chronicled your journey in this 1 hour capsule, 1 hour thereabouts. I need to get that fourth piece of music from you, and you're going to tell me what it is, and you're going to tell me why.
Well, it's undecidedly the Mystic Prowler. That's the stuff men have made of. You listen to that song. Because what they show you that sometimes we see what people are today, but it says what happens below the surface. All your warts, all your bruises, all your pitfalls, all you're picking up of yourself and dusting yourself out and going again. And believing in yourself and be driven by principle and purpose, you do get to the top of the destination. I've explained to you where I am and why I'm contented. But it's God's will in the end. It's God's will.
It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll go out to the end of the program with Mystic Prowler, Below the Surface.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Blessings. Blessings.
Really
Blessings.
pleasure having you.
Thank you.
This has been another edition of Profiles. My guest was Major the Honorable Clair Leacock. As we go out to the end of the program with their selection, Mystic Prowler, Below the Surface.
Sometimes I just get angry when I see somebody watch an ex-man achievement and declare that was easy. They don't see all the struggle and all the failure. They quickly form allegiance to toast the winner. But in this life there's a truth, and every tree you see have a root. And it's from way below the surface you bring up your fruit. Now Thomas Edison, the light bulb inventor, his 2,000 times he failed before the bulb could light. And when he reached age 67, a fire cost him 2 million. That's when the studio burned to the ground one December night. But he stood strong, faithful to his craft. And 3 weeks later, released his first phonograph. You see, he had the stuff great men are made of. It's the stuff you could miss unless you look below the surface. I say he had the stuff great men are made of. It's the stuff you could miss unless you look below the surface. Okay, Shaq.